thank for that. These gains have kind of been led by Amazon, Alphabet, which is Google, and then Apple has announced that they're coming out with some new phones, so that always tends to make their price bump up a little bit. So yeah, records on the NASDAQ and the S&P. The Dow is still slightly lower than the high in February of this year, but for a good thing to remember for everybody, the media talks about the Dow a lot. The Dow is only 30 stocks. A better indicator of the overall health of the U.S. economy is probably the S&P 500,
which is 500 stocks.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Got a better snapshot of that.
Right.
But one of the biggest overhangs on U.S. stocks, that tends to negate these gains via the roller coaster effect that we've seen this year, is trade, and how our relationship with the other major economic players in the world is going right now. There's been a big movement for trade at the beginning of this week. The U.S. and Mexico actually announced on Monday that they have come to an agreement that will replace NAFTA. So that's very positive news for us. It'll be called the United States-Mexico Trade Agreement, or TASUMTA, maybe?
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't
Easy
quite
for
have
you
the
to
same,
say.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the same ring as NAFTA.
No, not quite.
But,
okay.
But it is there. It's set to last 16 years with reviews every 6 years.
Huh. Okay.
And, the idea is that Canada's going to come around too, and we're going to, the administration has said this week that they are open to start renegotiating with Canada again. So hopefully that the whole North American trade agreement can get settled. That's really big for the U.S. We've got...
That would help calm things down a little bit too, right? Because Canada and Mexico are some of our biggest trading partners.
Exactly. We need to be on good terms with them. Once the situation with those two are resolved, we really need to square everything away with China. That's one of our biggest trade players. We've got everything okay with Europe right now. Mexico was settled at the beginning of this week. Hopefully Canada will jump on board, and then have to turn the attention back to China.
Okay. All right.
But so one of the things that's also been in the news this week when talking about trade is the U.S. dollar. The dollar has actually weakened to a 4-week low, so almost a month low. Which is, you hear a weakening dollar and automatically a lot of people, that's a red flag. What sounds like the U.S. economy is not doing well.
Right.
But yes, exactly.
Right.
That is actually good for U.S. firms who want to sell goods and services to foreign markets. If the dollar is weakening, then foreign goods become relatively more expensive, so the U.S. products and services actually become more competitive.
I see. And it seems like it's been really strong for a pretty long time, at least relatively speaking, right?
You're exactly right. It has been. And so it's interesting to see that this weakening dollar is coming out. You have all these things going on. It's positive economic data and earnings, and it's really just uncertainty in the geopolitical scene that's making the market be the roller coaster that it is this year. The other thing about a weakening U.S. dollar, the U.S. capital markets have more appeal, so that'll be an influx of foreign investors coming in to buy up, securities that are traded on the U.S. market, U.S. debt, that kind of thing.
Okay. And that's always pretty popular anyway, but it's even more so like this, right?
Exactly. The U.S. debt is the safest out there right now. And so this will make it even more popular.
Thank goodness we have a lot of it to sell to people.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The other interesting thing to see towards the end of this year with relation to the weakening dollar is going to be how the Fed reacts to that. The Fed uses interest rate hikes to curb inflation, but if you've got a weakening dollar, then your inflation is not necessarily there. The magic number for inflation, again, is 2%. That's what they want to kind of look for. But if the dollar's weakening, then it's not really there. So it'll be interesting to see if the Fed slows down the interest rate hikes that they were planning on. We'll see if there's going to be 2 more this year. That's what everybody's been saying.
Right.
Wouldn't be surprised if there's only 1 at this point now.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. In other news, oil's still hovering around $70 a barrel. Year to date, it's actually up a little bit from 60 to 70. It started off at 60 at the beginning of this year.
Right.
So we're doing well there. I think a few people would like to see it go a little higher.
Probably.
But,
sure.
It's at a happy medium right now. Gold, a lot of people flock to gold to kind of curb the volatility of the market. Interestingly enough, gold is actually at about $1,200 an ounce right now. And year to date, it's down about $150 an ounce.
Huh.
So it hasn't been the best shelter this year for the markets.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see how that finishes out the year. And then natural gas, we're hanging around below $3. It's about flat year to date. It did jump a little bit in January, but now it's back down. But the hope is with these new trade agreements that it might be easier to ship natural gas to foreign countries, which would be great for our area.
We hear a lot about liquefied natural gas, and that some of the coastal ports have been maybe putting in the facilities to do that, and so maybe that's finally coming around. Because it does take time to build all that stuff up, I suppose.
You're right. So. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to keep an eye on that and see if we can't find a way to export a little more liquid natural gas.
Right, because we certainly have pipelines in this
Yep.
area that would get it out of here.
We are set up to do
into California, so we've got a direct link, I would think, to those potential markets, right?
Down in the Gulf.
Both directions.
Yes, exactly. So hopefully we'll see a pickup in natural gas as the year comes to a close.
All right. Very good. Jason, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, Scott. I appreciate it.
We appreciate the update. Thank you very much. That's Jason Calcote from Citizens Trust and Investment Corporation here on KSJE Farmington.